Well, everyone, we have the pleasure today of welcoming Mr. Sebastian Manning. So, Sebastian, thank you for joining us here on DevCentral Connects. It is awesome to have you, man.
Hey, guys. Thanks for having me. Yeah, it's great to be on. I've watched
awesome.
many different episodes. So
yeah, no, that's great, man. That's great. Hey, I tell you what, when we were doing one of our live streams, I think this was last week, we were talking with the panel of like F5 experts and all that, and people were talking about, hey, you've got to update your software and get on the fixed version, right? So there's different protections that you can take maybe while you're waiting to update, but ultimately you need to update your software. And then while we were doing that, Sebastian, you were out there like rocking and rolling in the comments and you said, hey, I've got like, I don't even know, dozens of big IPs that you needed to update. And you reached into the power of automation through Ansible and you updated these things. And so we were like, man, we got to talk to Sebastian, we got to hear all about this stuff.
And so apparently we're not the only ones, because you got a fan club out here already. I mean, you haven't really said anything yet.
I do know some people on this fan club. I met Daniel actually at the F5 Agility in 2016, I think.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, M. Saeed, Sebastian Manning is legit. Legit. Hey, man, if you're legit in M. Saeed's
I appreciate
mind,
that.
You're legit in everybody's mind. So, yeah.
Awesome. I appreciate that. Yeah, definitely. You guys were streaming last week, and I decided to chime in. Hey, I'm upgrading. I was actually upgrading devices as I was going. And so my role as a, let's say, F5 consultant or subject matter expert, I've been doing F5 consulting on my own through many different VARs for about maybe 10 years now. So I always like to automate as many things as I can to make things quicker, and so I don't have to repeat the process. So I definitely always prefer to use Terraform if I have to these days, because I'm trying to kind of advocate more infrastructure as code. But for some customers, it's harder to do that. Maybe they don't have that Terraform infrastructure. They don't give me access to an Ansible box. Maybe I have a Windows server that's restricted. So I have to kind of always, as a consultant, find different ways to get the job done quicker, but make sure it kind of follows the best practices. So there was a case where I had a customer, we had about 30 F5s in AWS, and they are in the process of deploying a big IQ, but we have to do this right now because we have a change window and we have to get it done. All right. So I quickly spun up Ansible inside of AWS, which was good for the team because they allowed me to do that. Simply uploaded the big IP OS onto the device, so it's quicker to upload to the devices, because the biggest time to upgrade the F5 is uploading a 2 gig file and rebooting a 2 gig file. And then I took kind of a list of all the modules that I saw on Ansible, and I built an Ansible script to help upload the files to every single device, install the files, actually save the configuration first, install the files, verify the upload was completed. And at the end, the biggest part at the end was booting into the new partition. So if some customers wanted to go from 14 to 15 to a newer code, it's kind of copying that config. I didn't want to log into the CLI. So I actually just did inside of Ansible, and I'll show you guys, I did a curl command to actually execute that file.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, no, it's great. So we can demo this out.
You want to get into the demo?
Yeah, let's do it. Yeah.
All right.
So here's a quick playbook. You can grab this off of GitHub, and we can kind of take a look at it. So it's just an example, but really what I did for a couple customers, and I already sent this to maybe a dozen customers this week, where they can list out all their F5s. So in this case, we're just using AWS just to spin stuff up. I quickly kind of put the username and password, kind of quickly spun it up. And then I built this 55-line simple kind of playbook. First playbook, we're just the provider. So getting a list of all those hosts. First task, we save the configuration just in case it wasn't saved. Really what I want to do later on is maybe add a backup in here so it backs it up externally.
Yeah.
All right. Next, we're just going to upload the image. So in this demo, I'm uploading Big IP 16.0 because it just came out. And I thought I'd try it in this lab and try it at my home lab.
Yeah.
The next option or the next setup is to actually install the OS into the new partition. We have two ways of doing this. Based on the state, if I select install, I'll just install the operating system into that partition, but I won't boot into it. If you change this to active, it will actually automatically boot into the device. The problem with that is that if you haven't copied that config from the first partition to the second partition, and you boot to that new one, you're going to lose all your configurations. So what I did was, after it's installed, I just want to make sure, hey, everything was installed, was verified. Give me the actual spit out the software, system software, and split out the results inside this playbook. And I added this a couple of days ago because I wanted the whole process to be seamless. So this raw curl script, actually, all it does is logs into the GUI or does a curl or REST API call into the device and sends this command right to the device to copy the source from hard drive 1.1 to 1.2. There is a command in the module to do this, but unfortunately, to do a bash configuration has been kind of depreciated, so it doesn't work anymore. So that's pretty quick and simple, and we can kind of run through this. So for my example here, I have two F5s. I just spun up in AWS. We can see that we have one partition. And the big thing when deploying the F5 in AWS, always deploy a dual partition. I've had a customer early this week that they only deployed a single partition deployment in AWS. And unfortunately, they had to go about redo a lot of their applications because they weren't using AS3. But so we have our two partitions, so let's run the script. Simply, I'm just going to run the playbook, select my inventory, and install the OS. Oh, wrong one. Install OS. So let me just make this bigger. First thing I'm doing, just like we had in the task, we're saving the configurations. I've already uploaded the file just to save time. So it already passed that. Next, it's installing the operating system. So if we go back in here, it fails at first, but just give it a second, it'll start actually going. Really, I think it's something new in the GUI itself that it kind of fails, and then it finally starts spinning up. Okay. So it's just going through testing right now. The one thing I did find, if I'm going from version 14.1 to 15 and I have the ILX module, I ran into a bug that I had to just remount the user to it. I can share that on my GitHub to the team itself. So there we go. It kicked in. It's installing the operating system onto the drive.
Nice. And
once this install is done, it's just going to spit out to me that, yes, it was installed. And then it's going to copy the configuration from hard drive 1 to hard drive 2. And I'm going to reboot. In a production environment, if we have an active standby deployment, maybe we don't want to reboot the device, or maybe we can select different types of host files. We can have active load balancers and standby load balancers. So then we could do all the standby ones first, reboot them, fail the traffic over, make sure everything is working fine, and then do the active, or which would be the first standby devices. So.
And you establish all that in your playbook, correct?
That's correct. Yeah.
So while this is going, for the uninitiated with Ansible, can you kind of describe the process of a playbook, like, other than just task, but how would one just get started with a solution like this? Because it's 55 lines and you're done, and people look at that, wow, that's pretty impressive, but those are 55 lines that they don't really know how to get to.
That's true. And to be honest, the best resource is this Cloud Docs. I go here a lot. So the team has a full Ansible and a whole Terraform module on how to do things. which is fantastic. But if you go to, I think, F5 DevCentral, GitHub, you guys actually have a full lab. No, this wasn't it. Sorry, there was called, where was it? F5 Sandbox. This lab, or this kind of introduction to automating F5, actually builds out the entire process, the entire lab that I always use for if any kind of customers want me to show them F5 features. I just quickly spin it off inside AWS, and it gives me Ansible host, an F5 VE with 25 megs, 2 servers. And for myself to learn how to do a lot of this stuff, I kind of just go back to all the cloud docs and all the labs that you guys have, and follow a lot of the processes to learn. Because you do have a lot of information on here. It's just about accessing it, which I find very useful. There's actually another one called by Red Hat Lite, F5, I think that, GitHub.
While you're looking that up, I'm going to read a question real quick from Marcus. How do you get around some of the very diverse errors you can get from one box to another when you're using automation scripts? If it's all smooth, I can see it working a treat, but many failures will surely halt it. So
it typically, the environments that I'm in, we usually have a staging box and a prod box. I've been upgrading F5s for a while. I could really tell right away if it's going to fail, to be honest. But it's always good to run it in a staging environment. And I think one of the users actually posted, Josh, posted that mount issue there. We ran that in an exact environment that had an F5 active pair in AWS, and we found that issue. So we automatically added that to all the devices for that customer itself. And for that, we really just, inside of the playbook, where is this one? I think it's going to be here. Inside of this is just a verify playbook. We actually just added a task that's just big IP command. And this is just a TMSH command where we executed that command to fix the problem. So it is hard to do it, but if you have a test environment, or even an environment that you can spin up quickly using kind of Docker containers and in AWS, you can kind of test your stuff beforehand. But this Ansible F5 workshop here, I share this with all my clients because everybody always wants to know how to automate F5s, either adding pool members, deleting AS3s, creating apps using AS3. This is far about the best kind of free training Ansible workshop kind of I've seen, which how I learn or how I've educated kind of myself through it.
Yeah, and we'll add all those links to the show notes afterwards for those watching.
Beautiful.
Thanks, Sebastian.
Yeah.
I have another question here while you're waiting for that install. I've tested some modules and read Ansible documentation, but I need him to go into how to use iteration loops in Ansible modules, also exploiting Excel or CSV. And if
that is a good question. It's probably way past my Ansible knowledge, to be honest. I'm just getting into the point where I'm more just comfortable deploying my type of infrastructures inside that environment. But I'm sure I can get back to you. And I know tons of Ansible people that answer my tough questions every 3 days I call them. So,
and we certainly, Saeed, we can get the answers for you. I haven't messed with Ansible a whole lot, but I think they use Jinja templating, or you can at least use Jinja templating and iteration loops. If you go out and look at Jinja's Jinja 2's documentation, that's pretty helpful. So maybe not, you won't find exactly what you're looking for in Ansible documentation, but Jinja 2 documentation should be able to help you there as well. But if you have specific questions about that that you want to explore, if you get those to me after the show, or put them in the chat, we'll hunt those down for you.
Yeah. or anyone else watching could chime in as well if you're an Ansible ninja, But that's and that I was going to say that too, Sebastian. One thing I love about this whole solution is, I mean, obviously the power of the automation, but as you said yourself, I mean, maybe you don't know every little bitty bit and piece about Ansible, but you don't have to still create such a powerful solution. You can take the training or the information that you showed us there on DevCentral or Cloud Docs, whatever, and then, man, start rocking and rolling on this thing. It's
100%. Like when I just put this out on Twitter, I had a couple of guys from F5 reach out to me. It's like, hey, you can try this way and do it better this way. I'm like, oh, this is awesome, right? I even saw Ansible 2 days or 3 days ago released a playbook to mitigate the vulnerability, and I'm like, oh, that's cool. They used curl. They used that. They kind of used raw. I'm like, oh wait, I can use this in my script to execute this command because nothing else was working for me. So it's the community itself is amazing, and everybody's always helpful. That's why I kind of just always release a lot of the stuff I build code or Terraform or Ansible. I just give it out because someone always edits it to makes it better for me, and you learn from them and you meet new people.
Yeah. Right. Well, and it's such a great point. I mean, it's that's the community coming together to help the community. Yeah. And so I know that there are many people out there that may think, hey, I don't know enough about Ansible or, AWS or whatever. I mean, pick any of these technologies, right? And so maybe there's a fear or there's a hesitation to really put yourself out there or even to release anything, even if it's a little small thing. But man, I would just encourage you, follow Sebastian's lead, everybody, and do what he does. I mean, it's number one, you're a rock star. Everyone knows now, right? But two, I mean, we all have things to learn, and we can all help each other. So even that little raw curl thing. In fact, I think Eric Chin, you put it up there a second ago. That's just another little great nugget, right? So you just kind of keep adding these to your toolbox, and so there's an alternate to using the curl stuff right there. So, and
if anybody need to follow, you follow Eric Chen on his GitHub. He's got tons of great stuff I've stole from him. Yeah, so they're fantastic.
Yeah, Eric Chen is the one that we all follow. That's right. And it makes us all better. So yeah, it's awesome, man.
So Dream Traveling says it would be a good idea to combine these info with Red Hat's Ansible knowledge. So absolutely, to Sebastian's point a few minutes ago, it's iterative. And it's collaborative, right? You start with your own, this is I'm going to solve my problem now, but then you can build on that over time. And then as you share it out, you get that collaborative experience as well. And you can start folding things in from different solutions, and it becomes a more mature product in the end. Yep. And, and I think to Daniel's point, that's something else that, comes down the line, possibly maybe in this first iteration, there's not post-upgrade automated testing, but maybe in the future that gets added.
Yep, that's awesome. Yeah, I know we were just talking about Eric Chin. He said that he borrowed even that little nugget. So I mean, what a great thing though. I mean, even one of the giants like Eric Chin that we look to and all that. He's like, hey, I even Eric Chin borrowed it from someone else who put it together, and so we just continue to help each other. So. Yeah. Yeah, I guess the point of all that is don't be scared to just put something out there and let's all work on it together. So,
yep. Yeah, 100%. To Michael's point, Jinja works. Thanks, Michael.
Yeah. Cool. All right, so it looks like that thing finally installed.
It did.
Right? Okay.
It did install. So everything got installed. It verified the system, which is just to check that the install was correct. And then it actually spun out. Telling me, oh, yep, look, we have the hard drive is fully installed into that partition. Nice. And the next step is to copy that config. And once this happens, the device just reboots. Yeah. Right.
Sure.
And the key thing for me as a consultant, helping many customers, is this is it's a simple playbook, and it's easy to move to other customers. Right. So adding verification and stuff like that, we can add it per customer and we can make it very custom. But for me to solve a problem, which I got a lot of emails this week saying, hey, can we schedule you tonight at 10 to upgrade? I'm like, okay, let's first upload the file so we can, do this quickly. Yeah. I'm like, here's a playbook, here's a curl script, here's the TMSH commands. Okay, do what you need to do to upload it so then we can safely upgrade that tonight during a change window.
Yeah. What a great thing, man. So really quick, Sebastian, how many, and maybe you don't have the exact number, but how many big IPs did you need to upgrade? Like what was kind of the level of?
So I think I have like 6 tonight.
Okay.
I'm probably like 46 right now, maybe in this last week and a half. Yeah.
So 46.
I have like,
man, yeah. So I can just imagine, if Sebastian had to sit there and just like manually type this thing out, right? So wow, it just shows the power of these automation tools.
And it first actually started off was I was at a customer that had 28 of them. I'm like, all right, let me make SCP commands so I can just copy the file. I'm like, oh, I don't want to make these. Let me make it a loop. I'm like, wait a minute, let's just get the playbook. I saw a command to upload. Okay, let's do that. All right, and then just go. So it really started off with a simple SCP command and then moved forward to this. So.
And not to mention the accuracy of doing it in an automated way, because again, if you're out there just typing it all in, I mean, you're gonna miss something probably somewhere.
100%, right? Yeah, 100%.
So especially when you get up to 46 of these things, or in some cases people have more than that or whatever. Yeah. I think Brian McHenry, he was on one of the live stream shows we did recently, and he said he's like, if you have more than 2. Or maybe even at 2, then you need to start automating, right? So.
Yeah, and Python has a book, or there's at least an author with Python. So automate the boring stuff, and it's a really good exercise to go through because there's so much that you do that you do manually all the time, and it's like it'd be really super awesome to get through some of that stuff so you can free yourself up to do more interesting things.
Yep.
And RC 1719 or 1795. Never considered Ansible. Looks interesting. And so look into it. Absolutely. Thanks for joining us today.
Old school, man. Shell script. Way to go. RFC.
And so Daniel, 46 upgrades. So I guess my question to you, Sebastian, is like day 1, you said 100% success. Was day 2 also?
I'm still at a pretty 100% success.
Nice.
Look at you. Yeah.
Right. Originally, when before like version 14, not even 12, 12 always had some hiccups sometimes, I thought, with upgrades. But the iHealth used to have that upgrade process that kind of defined the help or helped you upgrade it or told you if there was any errors. But most of the customers that I'm upgrading, I've either built their F5s or managed their F5s or advised them on how to deploy apps. So I'm fairly confident they're done well.
Yeah. So, beautiful. Yeah. I love it.
Well, Sebastian, this has been awesome. Thank you. And we're going to transition over to our next segment of the show. And we're going to look into some big IQ awesomeness that does a very similar thing to what we just saw with Ansible.
Yeah, so a lot of options. So, Sebastian, hey, really quick before you go, I just got to mention this. Little fun story. Sebastian, I heard that maybe you got some days mixed up and you joined yesterday.
I did join yesterday.
So I like to think that rather than you joining us today, we have now caught up to where you've been on this thing for like 24 hours, and we have finally showed up for you. So man,
that's right.
Thanks again for being here. It's just awesome to see the power of this automation and what you were able to do. So thanks for sharing this with the community and making all of us better at what we do.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, guys.
Absolutely.
All right.